Good afternoon and welcome to WDCB's Blues Piano Showcase, broadcast live from PianoForte Studios in Chicago. I'm Leslie Karras, and our celebration of Blues Fest Week continues today as we spend an hour with pianist and keyboardist Barry Goldberg, accompanied by harmonica player Rob Stone. We'll get to the music in just a moment, but first I'd like to mention that we are broadcasting from the studios at PianoForte Chicago, which is dedicated to helping people love the piano. More information is available at pianofortechicago.com. Born in Chicago, Barry Goldberg is well known among blues fans for his work with guitarist Michael Bloomfield, whom he first met in high school. Together with Bloomfield, harmonica players Paul Butterfield and Charlie Musselwhite, and vocalist Nick Gravenitis, he was instrumental in bringing blues to a wider audience in the early 60s, both in Chicago and beyond. Also that decade, he co-founded the group The Electric Flag with Bloomfield and led his own bands. And over the years, he's written songs for stars such as Rod Stewart and Gladys Knight, produced albums by James Cotton, Percy Sledge, and others, and scored music for films and television shows. Without further ado then, here is Barry Goldberg with Rob Stone, live from PianoForte on WDCB. You are enjoying a performance by Barry Goldberg with harmonica player Rob Stone at PianoForte Chicago. I'm Leslie Karras, and you're listening to a live blues piano showcase here on 90.9 FM WDCB as we gear up for the Chicago Blues Festival, which begins tonight at Millennium Park. We'll get back to the music in just a moment, but first I'd like to ask you a question, Barry. Tell us how you met the blues.
Well, the first time I met the blues was in my little bedroom on Sheridan Road and just checking out my little transistor radio, listening to rock and roll. And it was about midnight one night, and I accidentally got to the end of the dial, and there was this station called WGES, and the DJ was Jam with Sam Evans. And there was this really far out music coming from the radio, and things were, the reverbs and were just exploding in my head, and it was it was unearthly music. It was not rock and roll, definitely. It was something else. It was mystical, magical, and it was Little Walter's Blue Lights. That was the song. And Ron Mallow, I guess, later found out was the engineer at Chess, where they recorded it. And they had a reverb unit there that was just, when they unleashed the reverbs, things just went off in my head, you know. And this is the music that I really feel, that's far out enough for me to really, and it was just the beginning, because not the best was yet to come, but there was more to come.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Little Walter, and then there was Muddy Waters he played. And then there was Otis Rush, and I said, that guy can shake that string, boy, and it goes right through you, and it's just, they played with such feeling in those records, and it was all based on feeling and soul and intimacy, like, and it wasn't, it was the sounds, it was the spirits inside.
And it came right through the radio. You could just feel it.
Yeah.
Were you playing piano by that point?
I was playing a little bit. My mother had taught me a little bit about the boogie woogie stride piano.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And
so you had a piano in the house?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a few records in the early years, like Meade Lux Lewis, a little bit, like, you know, and but never,
so going
this.
way back,
never
way
electric,
before Muddy. Mm-hmm.
Electric blues.
Uh-huh.
You know, and with tones of the Delta, you know, coming through the South, but it was electric. It was something that when both worlds collide and both worlds meet, this is what happens. This is what it sounds like, and so basically, and Muddy was a whole other thing, you know, and that slide guitar and his singing, his vocals, it takes you somewhere. And of course, I didn't go back to the Delta, you know, because I was far away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd heard the influence of that music.
Yeah, he brought the Delta to you. Mm-hmm.
And it brought me to that world, too. It was a combination of all of this wonderful music of Robert Johnson, and now it was being played with electric guitars, you know, and the harmonica played in such a way that I never heard before.
And so, but you weren't the only one listening to this music your age, were you? There were others who were discovering that music too, weren't they?
Other people that weren't quite of the norm, you know. We were normal.
A little off,
we were normal, but it was a little offbeat, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it was perfect for our personalities. Like,
okay.
You know. And the other people were Michael Bloomfield.
Guitarist, right?
We later met each other. I met Michael in high school.
Uh-huh.
We were competing for Sweet 16 parties. Like,
and were you, because he started out at New Trier High School, right? So you weren't both at the same high school initially, were you? Did you you both met up at a different high school, I think, didn't you, in Chicago?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
So you got to know him in high school, and you were both playing competing bands. What kind of music were you playing at that point?
Oh, we were playing like mostly instrumentals, because there weren't any really singers, like Link Ray and Johnny and the Hurricanes, that kind of music, rock and roll, Little Richard stuff,
Okay.
Fats Domino, the keyboard. Jerry Lee Lewis, of course, was my keyboard idol
Sure.
until I heard Otis Spann, and basically that. And the other people were like Paul Butterfield from the Hyde Park area, and
Obviously, harmonica, great.
Corky Siegel from the South Side, and Charlie Musselwhite had come into town from Memphis, and we called him Memphis Charlie. And he really wanted to get to Chicago, so he did anything he could because he was working in the factories during the day, and he was driving around and looking at all these posters. Well, Muddy Waters.
Oh, all the people playing. Okay.
Elmore James is here tonight, and he said so he would go down and with a fake ID. And go and sit to these clubs, and he never really asked to sit in, except the story is that he knew this waitress really well at the club, and I don't remember what the club. I think it was the Blue Flame Lounge, and the waitress said to Muddy Waters, "You should hear this boy play. He can really play." So Charlie got to sit in. And he became an attraction. And eventually, I got to sit in. Michael and I went to hear Howling Wolf at Silvio's on the west side.
And you and Mike Bloomfield were palling around doing that too.
Michael went down first, and he's very social, and he struck up these relationships. He got to know them. And so Wolf said, "We got these little boys in the house here, and they'd like to come up and play." And a hush came over the crowd, and they had never seen anything like this before, and we had never been a part of anything like that. And as soon as we got up and we started playing Killing Floor, that was the common denominator. That was like we were home, and we did it well, and it was just actually getting to play this music with Howling Wolf was amazing.
It must have been a tremendous, tremendous honor to play with him.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Barry Goldberg here at PianoForte Studios in Chicago. Barry is in town this week. He is going to be at a screening tomorrow of a documentary, Born in Chicago. He figures prominently in that documentary. And he's also playing tomorrow night at a show at Reggie's in Chicago. Well, speaking of playing piano, how about another tune? Feel like it? All right.
Let's do Just Your Fool. Just Your Fool in A.
That's Rob Stone on vocals and harmonica and Barry Goldberg at the piano. We are in the midst of a live broadcast here at PianoForte Studios in Chicago and spending an hour with Barry Goldberg and Rob Stone as we celebrate Chicago Blues Fest Week. I'm Leslie Karras, and we're going to get back to the music in just a little bit, but I know, Barry, a lot of people who are listening right now would love to hear how you and Michael Bloomfield would head down to the south side or the west side, and you'd check out some of the heroes that you had heard on the radio, but you weren't even old enough at the time to even get in the clubs. Can you kind of tell us how you came to make that jump from listening maybe outside the club to actually getting the nerve to get into the club itself and then play with the greats?
Well, Michael and I were playing in rival bands in high school.
Uh-huh.
And we got to know each other. And we were competing for Sweet 16 parties. And secretly, he said, I really play the blues, I could play rock and roll, but... And I was experimenting at home with a little boogie stuff and stride piano. And he said, you should come down with me. And to the south side, Peppers, or the west side, Silvio's, And I already had met these people. And they're really nice, and they're really kind, and they want to teach us, and why do we want to know about what they're doing? No one bothered them before, So Michael took his mother's car, and we went down to the first club we went to was Silvio's. And we walked in the door, and a hush came over the audience, and we just walked right in and sat at the front table. And Wolf said, we got some of the boys in the house here, and they're going to come and sit in. That was even too much for people to grok, And eventually we walked up on the stage, and we got to play with the great guitar player and Muddy Waters, Howling Wolf. And I believe little Bobby Anderson was on bass, and Fred Belo was the drummer. And we went into Killing Floor. Da-dum, da-dum, bum, ba-dum. And it was a massive force, with Wolf leading. And we joined right in, we played, joined right in, and everyone, they didn't really appreciate or recognize that we weren't up to snuff done, But we had the passion and the emotion and the honesty and feeling which they picked up on. They recognized that. And it was a success. Our first gig, and we walked out and people patting us on the back,
Oh, wow.
And I said, I guess we just arrived, Michael, And he said, just follow me and we'll do more of this.
Wow. And you did.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm. And you played with Muddy as well.
With Muddy?
Yeah. You were. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Otis Spann would notice when I showed up that it's his time to take a break.
Otis Spann, the pianist for Muddy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he could sort of lay low for a while and let me, do whatever I do. And so he always went like that. And I had no idea how great that was at the time. It wasn't just a piano player saying, come and sit in.
Right, that was Otis Spann you were talking about. Trying to follow him must have been something.
It never really struck us. Just wanted to play.
Huh, okay.
So I would play, and the piano was at the bottom of the stage, and Muddy was up here with the band on the stage.
Okay, so you were looking up at him, and he was looking down at you.
He would be looking down at me.
Yeah.
And, he'd be like...
Was he smiling at you?
Scowling, really.
He was scowling at you.
The sound
That's encouraging.
The sound of his band dramatically changed.
As soon as you sat down?
As soon as I sat down.
Okay.
It wasn't Otis Spann. and it never could be, it never will be, you know.
Yeah, there's only ever will be one Otis fan, no doubt about that.
Exactly, and Muddy wasn't happy, and we did this for a few months.
So he let you sit in.
So he let me, because
All right.
he said, if this guy wants to play, let him play. And now
So you wore him down, huh?
and we do that now, you know, now that we're the seniors, you know, if some young kid wants to come in, you know, and he thinks he can play.
You got to let him do it,
we let
yeah.
him.
Right.
So one time we were playing a boogie woogie, like, you know. And I started doing that, like, and Muddy started smiling. And I'll never forget that smile. He leaned over, you know, like that. And I said, I'm doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've clicked in. I finally got it, like, you know. And that was next to my son's bar mitzvah. That was the greatest moment for me.
Wow. Well, so there you were on the south and west sides, sitting in. But then, you know, you had already been playing with your own bands at that point. But then you were also then playing on the north side eventually, right? You were playing. Tell us a little bit about how that
There was this
turned out.
really great blues club in Old Town called Big John's.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the Paul Butterfield band started to play.
Right.
And slowly they attracted the greats from the west side and south side and enlarged their audience too, you know. And Hubert.
So the masters now were coming north to play.
Hubert Sumlin was that great guitar player from Howling Wolf's band.
That's who we were thinking of.
Who's 30 years later, when we did an interview with Hubert, I walked in the door and he goes, and that's what a sweetheart he was. Like, you know. So anyway, Big John's was becoming a really, the blues traveled from the south side to the west side to the north side, and Monday started getting gigs there, and it was great. It was really, you know, Otis Rush played there a lot. Elmer James, J.B. Lenore was always booked in there. I remember, Mama, won't you know, talk to you, Mama.
Talk to your daughter for me.
It was a whole world, you know, sort of like an R. Crumb kind of vibe with all the characters moving in. And Big John's, you'd be sitting next to a prostitute, a call girl, and then a socialite, you know, a robber, a burglar. You know, it was an interesting.
It sounds like it.
Clientele, like sort of like Casablanca, you know. Anyway, it was all really wonderful. So Butterfield had asked me to go. They were going to go on the road.
Okay.
And their first gig was Newport Folk Festival.
Was this in 1965?
1965.
The infamous Newport Folk Festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you
Tell us about that.
Do you want to hear about that?
Please, please.
That was, so I went with them. We all went in a car, and we got to Newport, and it was so beautiful. Everyone was, you saw all the eclectic folk people, like the Georgia C. Al singers and the Beers family, American folk music,
and blues people too, right? Like
yeah.
Son House was there, I think.
And
Memphis
Joe
Slim.
Baez, you know, Theodore Bickel, Odetta. You know,
Josh White, I think, was on that too.
Right. And we had all had assigned bunks. They opened up these big mansions, wealthy mansions, and put cots in, like, you know, so everyone, the performers could sleep. And there was this wonderful guy next to me, like an older black man, and he had put all of his things that belonged to him right on the cot, his penknife, his transistor radio, his wallet, anything at all of importance to him was laid out on the bed, and he never moved. He never went out. And he said, I said, man, you got to get out of here. It's so beautiful. The rocks, the water, you know, the little folk girls are so wonderful. Just hang out with them, you know.
And what did he say to that?
You hit on Joan Baez or something, which was impossible, by the way.
Okay. Oh, I see. Not that you would know anything about that.
She gave one look and that was stay away, you know. So he said, no need to. Just let me, you know. He didn't want to get into, and he probably just wanted to stay in his little area.
Okay.
And that was Sun House.
Wow.
And I didn't know, you know, how amazing a direct descendant, you know.
Right there next to you. Wow.
The blues, the real blues royalty, Robert Johnson and Charlie Patton,
Sure.
you know, all the Mississippi John, there he was, you know.
So you were getting ready to play with Paul Butterfield, or so you thought.
Producer showed up, Paul Rothschild.
Okay.
I don't hear any keyboards with the band.
Wow.
I'm sorry, there's no gig for you here. So it went from really beautiful, running through the fields with bare feet, you know, to a real black day.
Right,
you know,
right, exactly.
Real dark, and it wasn't fun anymore. You
No.
know, I was without a gig.
And you had nothing to do, just watch everyone else play.
Michael and Bob Dylan came in, and Michael recorded with Bob
Michael Bloomfield,
a few months earlier, and they did Like a Rolling Stone and Maggie's Farm and all those other songs. And Bob said to Michael, I'm not sure if my band is going to show up. Would some of the guys from the Butterfield band like to accompany me tomorrow night? And especially my keyboard player, you know.
Oh, that must have been music to your ears when you heard that.
Said, you know, Michael being my best friend, who later introduced me to my wife and Bob Dylan, not in that order, like, you know, but so 52 years later, we've been married for 52 years. And that was from Michael.
And I believe Gail is here today.
Yeah, Gail's in the audience. Gail Goldberg. Anyway, thanks. So that was it. And so Michael said, how would you like to play with me tomorrow? And I said, are you kidding? It'd be wonderful.
So that was a good consolation prize, right?
So it went from dark to light. You know, and just
so the beauty returned once again, and the flowers and running around, right?
I've known the songs because Michael came home and played me the record like a few times. And we played that night, very controversial.
Oh, yes.
Reaction
He went
from the
electric.
crowd because Bob had put his black leather outfit on, his black guitar, and Michael turned up to 9, like, you know, and it was Sam Lay on drums, the great late Sam Lay. And Jerome Arnold on bass from the Butterfield
That's
band.
Billy Boy Arnold's brother, I believe.
And Michael, myself, and then Al Cooper showed up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there were two keyboardists then.
The first time that there was 2 keyboards, piano and organ.
Wow.
And the sound, you know, it terrified most of the folk people because it signified like an end of the era, sort of, and a beginning of something new. And whenever you do something like that, something new, you're going to cause controversy. And this was a real, you know, issue here. So I remember half the people, or a little less than half the people, were digging it.
Okay.
But most of the people were booing.
Wow.
Because they felt that Bob had sold them out. But what he did is create a new chapter in his life called folk rock. It was the beginning of folk rock.
So you were right there at the start.
Wow. and the magic rubbed off, and it's still with me, you know. And we're still friends, and we've done a lot of work in between.
You and Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, Barry Goldberg is our guest this hour here on 90.9 FM WDCB. It's a live broadcast from PianoForte Studios in Chicago, and Barry Goldberg is in town this week for the Chicago Blues Festival. I was wondering, Barry, if we could entice you to play another tune for us at that beautiful piano. Feel like playing some more music?
Oh, pardon me.
Would you like to play another tune for us, Barry?
Which
Let's do Muddy Waters, Close to You.
Let's do that.
Sounds good.
We'll
All
do
right.
a Muddy Waters song now.
From the Five. I wanna get close to you, baby, and wine on rice. Close to you, baby, as cold as the ice. Close to you, baby, as hair on your head. Close to you, woman, you better believe what I said. Now let me get close to you, baby. Yeah, let me get close to you. I wanna get so close to you, woman. You won't know what to say or do. I wanna get close to you, baby, as fires to smoke. Close to you, baby, as pig to poke. Close to you, baby, as water's wet. Close to you, woman, as I can get. Now let me get close to you, baby. Yeah, let me get close to you. I wanna get so close to you, woman. You won't know what to say or do. I wanna get closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. I wanna get so close to you, woman. You won't know what to say or do. I wanna get closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. Closer and closer, baby. I wanna get so close to you, woman. You won't know what to say or do.
That's
Thank
Barry
you,
Goldberg
Thank you.
and Rob Stone here on 90.9 FM WDCB. Rob, I'd like to bring you into the conversation a little bit here. Can you tell us how you met up with Barry Goldberg and how the two of you started playing together?
Yeah, well, about 10 years ago,
Now, were you born here in
I
Chicago?
was born in Boston.
Okay,
I lived
okay.
in Chicago for about 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And I moved to Chicago to play with the great Sam Lay. And
Ah,
I
okay.
did play with him for a long time and full-time and then on and off with him and my own band, and sometimes we'd collaborate on things. And Sam spoke about Barry all the time, a lot. They had done, they had a band together called the Chicago Blues Reunion Band. They had known each other before that. And so when I moved to Chicago, Sam suggested that I find Barry. So I reached out to Barry when I got to town, and he happened to be playing at a club called The Mint in LA, and I showed up. He invited me to come sit in. I showed up with some harmonicas and played a little bit, and that was that. And well, I don't know. It's hard to tell if Barry's into it or not. So, I thought, well, that was nice. We'll see if anything comes of it. And I didn't hear from him for a while. And then at some point, he reached out and he said, "I really want to play Chicago blues, straight
I was
Chicago
going to say, and he
blues."
thought of you, right?
Yeah,
right.
he was feeling
That's very cool.
like he wanted to get back to his roots and the stuff, the music that really meant something to him. And luckily, I was maybe the only Chicago blues harmonica player in LA. So, so I got
probably.
the phone call. But and yeah, we just
Well, you got some
we hit it off right away. It was great.
You got some
been great.
mean harmonica players out there, though.
There's
for
great
sure.
harmonica players out there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that speaks highly of you. And then, so did you end up, the two of you end up doing some recording? Or are you going to do some recording together?
We
or?
actually just finished an album. So when the documentary Born in Chicago was being finished up, Bob
And that's the one
Sarles-
that's being screened tomorrow?
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Sarles needed some music, and it's a lot less expensive to have some people create some music than to pay for the rights to certain music. So
And just to interject, he is one of the filmmakers,
correct.
and he'll be on hand tomorrow during the Q&A.
Yes.
Okay.
Bob Sarles and John Anderson.
Uh-huh.
And so a group of musicians were put together, me and Barry and Jimmy Vivino on guitar, who can play every style, and Rick Reed on bass, and Vince Fawcett Jr. on drums. And this particular group, we had never all played together before, but when we got in the studio to record this underscoring for the film, it just felt so great. And then we finished. It was over, and we said, "Well, we're not ready to be done." So we put a band together. We started playing out, and periodically we all have projects. But we came together to play, and then we started before COVID. We started an album, and we got about halfway through, and then COVID put a swift end to that momentum. But I'm happy to say we just finished it.
Excellent.
Maybe a few weeks back in Los Angeles. So
And do you have a title for the album yet?
well, the group is called Barry Goldberg's Groove Summit,
Awesome.
and so
Okay.
that's the album title and the band name. And we have some great artists on there. Tony Bronigal from Bonnie Raitt's band, Taj Mahal's band, Tony Marsico from Bob Dylan's band. Great musicians, and it was fun. And it was a lot of different styles.
Excellent. And so we'll look for that later on in the year, or?
Yeah, we're shopping it around right now. So
All right.
hopefully
Excellent. Excellent. You feel like playing a little more music?
maybe we do something from that record.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay.
So this is a boogie. It's called Dirty Boogie, and it actually originates from the way Barry was describing that club where you had prostitutes and socialites in one space. This speaks to people's love of blues music,
From all walks of
regardless
life.
of their station. So this is
Right.
called Dirty Boogie
Okay.
in G.
See that high-class woman, all makeup and jive, living in a penthouse on Lakeshore Drive. she won't look your way. So don't even try, but when you play that funky music, you might catch her eye. 'Cause she loves the dirty boogie. Can't resist the dirty boogie. Yes, she loves the dirty boogie any place or any time. See that gangster on the corner, looking real mean. He's the baddest motor scooter that you've ever seen. But when he sees a pretty girl walking down the street, he loses his cool and starts moving his feet. 'Cause he loves the dirty boogie. He can't resist the dirty boogie. Yeah, he loves the dirty boogie any place or any time. See that little old lady standing over there? She's got a hungry look and a hopeless stare. She can't bend her knees and her back's out of whack. But when she hears that beat, she has a blues attack. 'Cause she loves the dirty boogie. Can't resist the dirty boogie. Yeah, she loves the dirty boogie any place or any time. Now even the mayor up in Old City Hall, smoking fine cigars and controlling it all. You know he's a sly one, always on the take. There's just one thing that can make that man break. Yes, he loves the dirty boogie. Can't resist the dirty boogie. Yes, he loves the dirty boogie any place or any time. Yeah, he loves the dirty boogie. Yeah, they love the dirty boogie. Can't resist the dirty boogie. Yeah, they love the dirty boogie. Well, they love the dirty boogie any place or any time.
That's Barry Goldberg and Rob Stone here on 90.9 FM, live from PianoForte Studios in Chicago. And, you know, Barry, wanted to circle back to you, if we could, for a few minutes. Where we left it off, you had been playing at Big John's and with Paul Butterfield, and but I know that you also were doing some work with Charlie Musselwhite as well, and you recorded an album with him as a leader. It was his first album, Stand Back, and Harvey Mandel, the otherworldly guitarist in that band. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how that band came together.
Well, Vanguard Records, Sam and Ann Charters wanted to do a record with Charlie Musselwhite. So they approached me and Harvey Mandel on the guitar, and I sort of put it together a little bit, and we got Fred Belo on drums and little Bob Anderson on bass. And we went into, I believe it was Universal Studios in Chicago, and I think the whole album took 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
And
was Sam Charters giving you much? He was very generous with time, wasn't he?
He was just letting us do our thing. And next. Okay. And Charlie was ready with the songs, you know. And
well, you know, if I could ask you, you mentioned the songs on the album. I'm continuing to be spellbound every time I hear Cristo Redentor, and how you started out that tune on the organ was just fantastic, and how Charlie came in and just, I mean, it was a Duke Pearson composition. Donald Byrd played that, and Charlie just owned it, and I was amazed that was on that album, his very first album.
That's a great way to describe it. He took it over.
Yeah.
I'm Charlie Musselwhite, you know, and I'm going to play the blues for you, you know.
And then some.
And he did, you know.
Yeah.
And his style and Butterfield, they were both really great harmonica players.
Butterfield and Musselwhite.
But Charlie had a little edge, a little southern, you know, that
Yeah, they're different.
that funk, that real feeling that he was much, you know, much more those high notes and cracking notes and splitting notes and funkier, a little funkier. And I was really proud of that record, the way it came out. And I mean, people spend 6 months on a record, you know, and we just went through it like we were going through our set.
Wow.
And he gave Harvey a song, you know, for the publishing. He gave me a song, Sad Day, I think it was. And then we did Cha-Cha the Blues and Early in the Morning, Baby About to Break a Day is my favorite song on that record. And it just clicked. It was easy.
And that, you know...
No psychos in the band.
Yeah.
You know.
As opposed to perhaps other bands you can think of, right?
Yeah, no, it makes it easier when there's no craziness. You know?
Right, exactly. Just play. Well, that was quite a year. That was '67, right? When that album came out, and isn't that the year too that the Electric Flag was formed as well? With
I think Downbeat gave it some good credits, like, you know, good reviews.
With Michael Bloomfield, yeah, quite a band that was.
So was really happy with that as to add to my blues forte, you know.
Well, if you're just joining us again, we've got Barry Goldberg here at the piano at PianoForte Studios. Also, Rob Stone joining us on harmonica and vocal, and Barry is featured in a documentary we referred to earlier called Born in Chicago. That is being screened tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the Chicago Cultural Center. And then Barry will be playing at Reggie's tomorrow night. And I believe Rob Stone we can persuade him to come too. But lots of people playing tomorrow night there at Reggie's. Well, I wonder if we could entice you, Barry, to play one more for us. What do you think?
Certainly.
All right.
We're going to do a Jimmy Rogers song called Left Me with a Broken Heart in E. You, darling. It was in a dream. Never thought that you could ever be so mean. Yes, darling. You left me with a broken heart. Yes, darling, you left me with a broken heart. Life was so sweet for both night and day. Then he came along and you slipped away. Yes, darling. You left me with a broken heart. With a broken heart.
sister. You left me with a broken heart.
You've been enjoying a performance by Barry Goldberg and Rob Stone here on 90.9 FM WDCB. Today's broadcast was presented in partnership with PianoForte Chicago, serving Chicagoland and helping people love the piano for more than 15 years. Information at pianofortechicago.com. Thanks to Thomas Zoles, Rachel Fraser, and the entire crew at PianoForte for their help with this broadcast. Thanks also to Clarice Kavoris, Dan Bindert, and Donna Mullen for production assistance. And thanks again, of course, to Barry Goldberg and Rob Stone for performing for us this afternoon. I'm Leslie Karras. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for DCB Jazz with Donna Mullen right here on 90.9 FM WDCB. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.